Hi everyone, I'm Samira.
And I'm Steven. And this is the Monday Report.
It is the Monday Report.
It is Monday.
Okay.
Good morning, America.
And Canada.
And Canada.
Hi everyone, I'm Samira.
Whoops. Okay.
Hi, I'm Samira.
And I'm Steven.
And this is a podcast recapping the Antler program in Canada.
Week 2, week 3, and now we're on week 4.
Yes. So a little bit of backgrounds about ourselves. I'm Samira. I used to be a software engineer working in San Francisco. I quit my job, and what you do after you quit a normal tech job is like startups, right? That's like the obvious path, or I don't have enough knowledge of different paths. So anyhow, I was like, yeah, that's kind of what you do. So Antler kind of like stumbled upon my inbox on LinkedIn. I was already not working. I was trying to hack and make apps and try to figure out my direction and what I want to do with my work. And now I find myself here. So to give an overview before I let you talk about intro yourself, Antler is a global VC fund that funds early stage founders. They identified themselves as being a 0 to 1 program where you can come in with no co-founders and no idea, and essentially spend this 10-week in-person residency finding your co-founders and potentially gaining convictions on an idea. So we are starting week 4, 3 weeks has passed. Steven, do you want to talk about yourself a bit and how you find yourself at Antler?
Well, I worked like you at a startup and tech companies in my past. I was in product management, but I also did a bunch of coding as well. You know, well-rounded founders, you want to be able to do multiple hats. And so prior to Antler, I was helping a startup in California in the generative AI field, built my excitement in this space. Prior to that, I was doing my own startup with a great team doing synthetic data. I see a marriage between those two. So I had that initial idea, and that is when I got a message from Antler. And again, as Samira mentioned, it's that really nice accelerator from 0 to 1 that they're touting that I was like, hey, if it can help strengthen that idea and build it into something, I'm here, and here I am.
So they reached out to you. You didn't actively look for an incubator to join, right?
I would actually say both, you know.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it was a reach out to me or I was exploring. It was both. I was looking, seeing how best to tackle this idea, and at the same time, Antler was visible scouting, looking for people just like yourself.
Okay.
And I found, we found each other, and the rest is kind of history now.
Okay, interesting. It seems like you're not a 0 to 1 though, right? Like you have a bit more experience. You have like previous startup experience. So you're a bit more experienced, wouldn't you say, than the rest of the cohort? Or how do you feel about that?
Each of us has our own experiences. Like you have your own experiences that you can mention to everyone as well. That stuns me. It's an incredible story you have. I might have a different experience, right? But every company, every startup starts from 0 and has to grow. So I'm looking at it like I am also at stage 0. It's just like everyone else. The experience I bring might be unique, like yourself bringing something unique, but I'm starting at 0 just like you.
Okay, and what are you hoping to get out of Antler by the end of this 10 weeks? Besides I forgot to mention an important component. It's a 10-week in-person residency program that requires you to have quit your job. I think for the vast majority of people, this needs to be their full-time commitment. And then they give you like a stipend, a small stipend. Did you receive your stipend?
Yeah.
I noticed I received mine too. That was a nice surprise. And then you're basically working up towards the pitch, which comes in the 10th week. And then if they, if they like your idea or your pitch, then they will invest. Is it $250K, and then after taxes and fees, you get 150 or something?
So it's they provide a lot of services,
right?
As well as this residency. There's services that help you start a strong foundation of a company, and that's part of their offer as well.
Okay. And the numbers are like something like that, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I remember we were having a conversation with like one of our cohort dinners, and Justin was talking about the terms. Justin is another member in our cohort. So some people might be like, those terms, but he's like, I was like 10% of nothing, you know?
It's my favorite line. It's always the 10% of nothing.
Yeah.
It's zero. It's zero times anything, you know?
Yeah.
It's, but it's so much more than the money.
Yeah,
it's
it
so
is.
much more. And I keep trying to mention this to people. It's like,
Yeah.
there's a network that will help you grow this company. There's partners that will grow your company with you. Other co-founders and other founders. The network is
Yeah.
bigger than that. So the
Yeah.
residency is of value, the network's of value, but most importantly, they're going to grow with you. They want you to succeed. That, like
Yes.
10% of nothing, as you said, is nothing. But 10% of a big company, they
Yeah.
want you to become big. That's 10% of a big company is valuable, right?
And to the point of them helping you, like I've also been pleasantly surprised that they bring back other members from previous cohorts to either give us advice if they were successful in their cohort essentially in getting funding and everything, and then also other members who haven't quite got to that stage of like who are still like kind of looking for co-founders. So like last week we had 2 people come and pitch their ideas from a previous cohort who are still looking for the right co-founder, right? So it's really good, like it's really great to see. I think Antler still support cohorts even after the program ends.
No, 100%. It's not only reassuring to us, but if they really believe in someone as a founder,
Yeah.
that's proof right there that they're going to keep investing their time and energy into them.
Right. Did you know much about Antler before joining? What are some misconceptions? Okay, I guess you
No,
didn't know much
I
about it.
didn't. I honestly, like a lot of my work's taken me to California or Markham, and Antler Canada is actually based downtown. So this
Okay.
is new for me, which is exciting.
Okay.
In terms of VCs and that sort of stuff, again, more in the Markham area versus downtown. And Antler, I believe, just started in 2019 in Canada.
Right.
So
recent.
when I was doing my first startup, that was 2017. So it was a bit before Antler.
Okay. So no points of comparison really, because you didn't know about it prior.
Nope.
I will say I also didn't know about it, but when I look at like the social media presence and the followers, like I realize how much of a global brand it is. Like everyone knows YC
Yep.
in North America, but Antler is quite big, like globally, right?
Oh, I before joining, I watched a lot of their YouTube videos.
Yeah.
They have some really great videos online. Their articles are really good. I really liked their website. Honestly, it was impressive.
Yes. All right. Enough raving about Antler. I think the partners watch up to this point.
Oh, okay. Now we
just-
can. Okay. Cut into next steps.
I thought we'd recap what the programming looked like the third week. So Antler always has some programming for us in the week to give us some structure. But of course, as the weeks go on, that programming decreases, or they provide things like office hours. So it's more of a free flowy thing where they still assist you if you want to take advantage, and otherwise let you also work at your own pace.
Yep.
And create your own agenda. So some of the things we had last week was partner office hours, where Bernie Lee, he's one of the partners at Antler Canada, just like sat in the back room. We have a back room over there that's large, and you were there, right?
Yeah, I was
We
there.
just gathered around.
It was very
us.
casual,
Yes.
just a very casual conversation. We actually have another one today.
Oh, yeah,
with
with
Naaman.
Naaman,
Yeah,
other
very
partner.
excited for that. Yeah.
Better make sure we're not late for that, eh? We also had speakers come and talk. We also had previous cohort members like Shrey Mehra from Easy Assist come and talk. He'd gone through a previous cohort, and his company is, well, they reference the company a lot. I think it's one of their favorite.
He even worked. He
Oh,
also
yes.
worked at Antler Canada, which is also a fun story as well.
Yeah, that was crazy, right? Do
It
you
was.
wanna recount that story quickly?
It was interesting because he was so convicted on this idea that he was like, and he had this partner that he knew he wanted to co-found a company with. And he was working with the Antler team, and he just knew this was the time. And he went for it, and Antler Antler supported him as well, going from that 0 to 1. It goes back to your question of experience, right?
Yeah.
This is someone who had the VC experience, knew the end-to-end of this program, how they invested everything, but he also was starting from 0 and joined the cohort. It's not about what experience levels, it's about you're starting an idea.
Yeah.
So he joined that same thing.
That speaks to, when we say also that he worked with Antler, he was a director of something. So he was on the Antler payroll.
Yes.
And I think it speaks to the value you get from the program, that someone who worked for Antler is like, I want to do it.
Oh, that's the advertisement right there for Antler. Okay, now no more Antler advertisement. No, but you were mentioning, so we had that really last week, the partner hours. I think for me at least, casually having a conversation with a VC, you just don't really get that. I know in my past when I spoke to VCs, I don't want to say you want to be perfect, but you're trying to describe what you're doing in a way that's articulate, trying to show the best of yourself and your co-founding team, as well as your idea and product and business. Like, it's a very professional, non-casual experience. Whereas this was like my first experience of, hey, how do you feel? How's it going? It was really awesome, honestly.
Yeah, I wonder how many other opportunities you're going to have for things like this. Because he was like also giving us insights into how VCs think. Like, he gave a funny tip that was like, if you put stealth in your LinkedIn title, you will immediately like attract VCs. Or if you create an entry in PitchBook, a lot of VCs have alerts set up. And then like certain questions to ask VCs. So like he gave us the insider scoop on how VCs operate.
I'm trying to remember. There was this one really big takeaway I had where he was saying that it was someone in our cohort asked a question.
Okay.
And the question was, what's a sniff test? Because someone in our cohort had an experience where they would spend a lot of time with a VC, and honestly, many of us will have that same experience.
Yeah.
And it didn't go anywhere. And one of the best takeaways I had that Bernie mentioned was, ask them when the fund was initialized or started. Because if it was, let's say, 4 or 5 years, they're coming to the end of their funding around, and so probably not going to invest. But if it's right at the beginning, they have all of this opportunity. So that was something really interesting, because I never thought of that. I read the books, I do all that sort of stuff, and that was a really cool.
Do you remember he phrased the question a particular way, like, what is the fund vintage or something?
Yes, no, there was the terms and everything, yes.
I think if you go into a call and use that lingo, like, they'll immediately, like, respect you a bit more. This person knows their stuff. So I was going to ask you, what were some of your favorite parts from the programming? Like directly experiencing it or listening, or what was your favorite learnings? And then I'll share mine.
No, for sure. And at the beginning, you might have noticed I said week 2 and week 3. And I wanted to say that on purpose because in week 2, there was an incredible workshop on business planning and mapping the business. But not just like, oh, I'm going to solve this idea or do this. But it was also, what do you want to, what don't you know or have evidence of? And what moves towards you gaining more evidence? And why I want to reference that when talking about week 3 is the speakers continued to build on that. They kept pointing that out. Like we had a talk on Tuesday, more on the technical co-founding side. We've had a lot of speakers talk to the business side, but not really on the technical side. But the truth is, on the technical side too, it's also about building that evidence as well. And it also led into other talks that week too. So weirdly enough, my favorite part is how the story continues to grow and progress, and how they're referencing and building upon things you learned in prior weeks, versus it just being like, oh, I already know this stuff. I'm going to go into this week because that's what this week's about. No, it's again, they're moving you from 0 to 1, and they're kind of trying to keep with that trajectory. So my favorite part, honestly, and I say this in all the feedback forms, is them growing upon the story and building upon it. And building that evidence. It's so important. There's so many things unknown when you're starting at 0 that just keep mentioning that. How much more evidence have you figured out this week? It's a fun one.
I hadn't thought about what I did observe was that every time a speaker spoke to us or some aspect of the programming, it felt like it was really relevant to what I was going through at that moment.
Yes.
So I hadn't thought about them intentionally,
Yes.
like making the content kind of build on each other so that, because I swear every single session we have, I walk away more motivated, inspired, and I learn something new.
I think it's because they've done this before, right?
Right.
They've now witnessed 0 to 1 a bunch with these founders.
Right.
And so based on when we're starting and what week we're at and what they're
Yeah.
talking about, and they're also checking up on us. Like last week, a bunch of us, if not all of us, actually got one-on-one time with a VC
Yes.
to talk about our idea and get started. So they're also keeping track of where we are and
Yes.
tailoring the content to us. So I don't actually think it's by accident that you feel this way, because I'm also feeling that way.
Okay.
A lot of the things I'm dealing with, getting customers, like when we were doing that partner meeting or the casual partner in the chat in the back room, I want to no, it was with Shay. It was when it was the Easy Assist.
Okay.
It kept talking about customer,
Yes.
and all I'm thinking is, did I message enough customers today? And I swear in that room I
Yeah.
messaged another like 2 or 3
nice.
customers. So yeah, it motivating, retelling, like, Steven, are you doing everything you can to move to 1 today? So motivating for sure.
It's funny you mentioned the partner office hours. It reminds me of something that Daphne told me. So I had a one-on-one with her. Daphne's the program manager. And I asked them how they measure progress. Because the biggest thing they want to measure is progress, like how fast you move from like week 1 until up to week 10 if you make it. There's a possibility that you don't make it, by the way, to week 10, which is week 7. Some people can exit the program if they're not making enough trajectory. But those office hours, she said, are pretty critical in the partners figuring out how fast you're moving.
Yep.
So beyond getting advice and like empathy and all that, at least it occurred to me that one should also look at them strategically.
I think there's a good blend of pressure as well. Like, look, we're here voluntarily. Like, we've
That's
applied, we've agreed to this program. They're putting their time into us to support us. That's what their whole business is.
Yes.
But they're just making sure we're on the trajectory, right? They're
Right.
checking in, but the pressure's good.
Yes.
Sometimes you might not realize how fast the time's going. And they actually, last week, they repeated multiple times, guys, 3 weeks have already gone by. So you're on week 4 now, and there's only 6 weeks left. Do you have, is your idea now at 0.3? Is your idea at 0.5? Are you still at 0? If yeah, you better.
I also asked of the people that got exited at week 7, basically, what was the thing that they weren't doing, and the main thing I think was, if you're at that stage and you still haven't found your co-founding team, like you might have tracked in or tracked out, but if you're just so leisurely taking it and you haven't shown any progress or like this, I think what they look for is your ability to like form hypotheses, go test it, talk to customers, and then validate your ideas really fast. And if you don't show that, and by week 7 you haven't like worked out the dance to know who you're gonna co-found with, I think that could be a sign that you're not doing well against at least the evaluation criteria in this program, which we voluntarily, like you said, subscribe to. And then what did Shrey say? He also talked about this, that the biggest thing to do is just, like you said, you got inspired to do the customer interviews then, but yeah, just literally just invalidating fast and moving as fast as you can to talk to as many people. And I think this was actually like an eureka moment for me last week. It was a bit sad first, but then I bounced back where I realized like it really is not about the ideas and what you're trying to create. Like at this stage, or you seem like you disagree.
No, I'm thinking of what you're saying. Like, it's a tough one, right? There's so many books about what you should be doing, the frameworks to use, and they're also Antler's also going through, and speakers are going through these frameworks as well. It's I was telling someone, I think it was last week, I was telling someone that I'm going really, really fast right now, as all of our cohort is, because again, we only have 10 weeks, but at the same time, I'm going slow. And what I mean by that is, A lot of startups that I pay attention to and are really popular right now, they have not just started. They have been around for 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 years. My favorite startup right now that I keep following is 6 years old. And the truth is it's called Arguila. It's out of Spain. Okay. Love them. They're awesome. But what's interesting is, yes, we're in a 10-week program. Yes, there's that cutoff you mentioned on week 7. But there's also people in our cohort that are from the prior cohort.
Right.
And they're not any worse off. If anything, someone that started at a worse foundation would be worse off than someone taking more time to figure out exactly what they will be doing and finding the exact co-founder. That is, Antler's also investing in that as well, right?
I will say, okay, so when I started the program, I was like, I'm going to go in with my own set of goals and then use Antler to assist me in that. But something happened.
Unlove it. No.
Something happened when you're in an environment like this and you're hearing a lot of conversation about different co-founders, you're hearing some gossip, and then you're hearing about like who they invest in and what Antler's criteria is. One of the dilemmas I had last week was I realized I got too influenced then by the programming, like, again, not at their fault, but my own, and I kind of lost my original reasoning. So that created a dilemma for me a little bit, but I resolved it by the end of the week. Okay, so good. I realized that, no, I shouldn't try to, like, appease whatever the program I'm in. I should still operate from a place of, like, where my convictions and where I want to go, and then use the outer surface resources as a way to get there. But I will say it's still sometimes difficult because we are in such a heightened social environment, you know? You get influenced by what others are saying or doing.
For sure. Read a book, you'll get influenced. Do all these things, you'll get influenced. But
I actually get influenced by books a lot.
I do as well, honestly. But I love to read. But what you said is really important because I had goals come, like, I'm sure everyone in this program had goals coming in.
Yes.
And I was feeling that the pressure was accelerating those goals or making me have to reconsider some of those goals.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that's good or bad. I want to say that I'm along for this ride right now, and I want to see where it'll take me.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm seeing my idea start to form.
Yeah.
I see myself narrowing in on a team. So the pressure is moving me and accelerating me. I just have to take time like you did, evaluate how this pressure, how this acceleration is affecting those goals. Yeah. And as long as it's still aligned and you realign and make sure you are good with those goals, at least for me, I do that, right? I make sure, see how things are going, see if the trajectory is still my trajectory, and if the acceleration is working for me.
I will say that I agree that the pressure is good because the way I look at it, I will be going through this evolution that I'm personally going through anyway if I keep on this startup journey. So like the pressure that is happening on me or like I allow to happen, it's good from like I want it in this like literally it's an accelerator of like creating a company and then things like that. Like for instance, if I wasn't at Antler, I could have spent 6 months building the prototype for an idea and then launched it and then no one wants it, so I would get incredibly like discouraged, depressed or whatever, start having an existential crisis. And I feel like I also went through the emotions of that, just learning through like the speakers and other folks on the program who have like a ton of experience and are really wise, just learning that as well, like mentally that, oh, this idea I have for a particular thing, right? That's where it's gonna go if I don't do these steps of like actually talking to enough people to see that whether I have an insight that's relevant to like a good amount of people or if I'm just like completely like blind and just attaching my ego to like this vision of a future, which if I even like dig deeply enough, I might not even want this solution, right?
You know, I think it was last week. Again, these weeks are going to continue to blur together. And I think it was this week. We mentioned Antler a lot. We mentioned speakers a lot. But to be honest, when I did my first startup, the most valuable part of that process for me was other founders, other companies. And so, you know, what's interesting, I think it was last week, you were going through an idea and you invited me. I think it was Monday. I think it was Monday of last week. You invited me and a few other founders.
I think it was Friday because my office hour with Naaman was on Friday, and then I got inspired and I just set a bunch of meetings on the afternoon. Yeah, Friday.
And so what's interesting is, even though you were asking feedback, I was using how your thought process was going and where you were thinking about my stuff as well and improving my stuff. And so again, another really valuable part is we're surrounded by 70 other founders, all going on that same journey. And yeah, maybe some will influence, some will go faster, some will go slower, but these are all people that are joining a similar journey as you, and hearing how they're thinking, hearing how they go through things. It's honestly one of my highlights, right?
Let me ask you a spicy question. Although I know you're not gonna
should I clap and just in case it's too spicy?
No. Do you think you're competing with the people in this cohort in any way? Do you think we're like, all of us are arms and band?
Look, we're always competing, right?
Yeah.
This is a competitive landscape. If you get invested, someone else is not getting invested in.
Yeah.
That's always how it's going to be. But it's not about being rude. It's not about being mean. It's not about not telling people or sharing everything and hogging all the information to yourself. No, share it. I like that this competitiveness makes our ideas stronger, right?
Yes.
If we all come out with a really, really strong company, we're all competing, we're going to be ahead of all the other startups, all the other companies, right? So, no, I think the competition's really good. Okay. I think it is competitive, but I think it's really good.
Okay, I agree with you, and it reminded me of a book, The Inner Game of Tennis.
Ooh. Do you play tennis?
I don't.
Oh, okay. So I love tennis. Sorry, I'm just curious.
You should check out that book. I played sports though, and that book talks about how mindfulness is so necessary for success in sport once you get to a certain level. And it uses tennis as application of its principles, but it can apply to any sport. Anyhow, it talks about competition, because this book is approaching from a mindfulness angle. So it talks about what is the point of competition, right? And essentially at the end, the author makes the argument that competition at its purest form helps you. It's an internal thing. The competition just helps you become a better, more elevated version of yourself.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I've played tennis from when I was a kid, and I still play today. I love tennis. And unlike every other sport, what's really interesting in tennis is they say, or I was told, never go easy on your opponent.
Yeah, that's what the book said.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because, at the same time, when I was a kid, I always found it weird that the people I was playing against would go, play really hard, even if I was at a lower level than them. But at the same time, even though I was playing against people way better than me, my level was slowly getting better because of that. It's a disservice. They say it's a disservice if you're not playing at your best.
That's what the author said, too. He said he would never go easy on an opponent, because it would be a disservice to them.
Tennis is I love it, and it's that takeaway is really interesting. I'm glad the book says that. It's a very interesting takeaway from that sport.
That's interesting. I played basketball growing up, and if you play 1-on-1, which is a popular form of casual play, you keep scores, right? It's usually to 7 or to 11. But you feel a little bit of guilt when you're up and you announce the score, right? So it's interesting that
it is different.
The mentality is different.
It's weird because it's the same in hockey as well, where there's rules that especially in minor hockey, after you get if you're up by 5 goals, they won't add more goals. It won't be 6-0, 7-0. It will technically still be that, but on the scoreboard it will stay 5. But again, tennis is not like that. Tennis is but it's, why did they write about tennis in that book? It's just a really interesting message. And
How do you feel about pickleball?
I did try it for the first time last week. Okay, we're talking about recaps from last week. In the Antler office, they have a pickleball court, and I did play. Okay. Now, the disclaimer here is I did win my pickleball match, so there might be bias in my next comments, but It was different. It was different for sure. The ball doesn't bounce as much. So coming from tennis and expecting the ball to bounce a certain height and not having that, or having to move more because it doesn't travel as much.
Yeah.
There were some little things. The racket's a different shape. But, same situation, hit the ball, different serves.
Here's my controversial opinion on pickleball. I've never played it, but I've watched lots of people play it, and it's gained such prominence in tech. So tell me if the statement is true. Pickleball seems like the unathletic version of tennis.
Oh no! That's the spicy. No. Yeah. You said spicy. You didn't warn me about this question.
You don't have to comment.
No, I'll have fun here, right? I said already, I really love tennis, so I'm going to be biased here and say I love tennis way more.
Yeah.
But honestly, in terms of athleticism, it depends on how hard you play a game, right?
That's true.
Running in tennis, I'll pick up a sweat. I was still sweating from pickleball.
Okay.
It's not. Fair. It's more of how much you put into something.
That's true.
Because in tennis, I can literally stand there and not move, and I won't break a sweat.
But okay, that's true on an individual level. But if you look at it collectively, what is the demographic that represents a sport? I will say
it's a new sport. Maybe people are still getting into the game, right?
That's true. All right, we'll drop the controversy.
Oh no, okay, well, fine. I'll agree with you.
No, don't agree with me. No, I doubt any pickleball fan is watching this video, but
or it blows up and it's all about pickleball. Skip to this moment in the video and audio.
Yes. I'll just take the snippet from this part and put it on my LinkedIn.
Just this part. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to my outlines for the podcast.
No more pickleball questions?
No.
Did you know you only have to you can't do an overhand serve. You can only do underhand.
Okay, see, that makes me respect pickleball less.
Go to the outline. Go to the outline.
All right. Okay, so I'll talk about some of my favorite lessons from the programming and learnings. So the first was from Shrey Mehra, the founder of Easy Assist.
Yeah.
He came and did a casual Q&A. So one thing I found really valuable that I'm still carrying to this day, I noted it down, I made sure I will look at it daily, is that it's not just about doing customer discovery to get feedback on the problem domain that you have a potential solution for. He said you can also be strategic in how you get feedback. So he said try to get as much feedback with the least amount of effort. And how they did this was they went to an expo that had a bunch of franchisee people, and they just went booth to booth and got a bunch of feedback. And imagine that instead of that, they did individual calls. So he said look for leaders, look for people that represent a segment, and talk to them versus talking to individuals. Did you catch that?
I did, and it's exactly as you said. The line of try to get as much customer discovery with the least amount. This is a scaling game, right? Mm-hmm. How much can we as founders scale ourselves? And they're right. They found where there was going to be a good concentration of their direct customer in a single spot that they can go to every single one of them. It's what I love conferences for that. In this case, an expo. And I think if we didn't already mention, we're both going to likely be going to a conference this week, Discovery X. Mm-hmm. And this is a great opportunity to do what Easy Assist did, where is our customers there? Or is our possible customers there? Is there a way to maximize how we can reach them? Messages. What are we going to tell them? Oh, yeah. Definitely thinking about that. Great line from Easy Assist's co-founder. Yeah.
Super underutilized still, this concept of going to, exhibitions and, expos and conferences. Well, at least it didn't occur to me so much, but now hearing how
you know what it is, it's whether it occurs to someone or not, it's also time management. And you kind of mentioned right away, if you didn't join Antler, you might be coding for 6 months, build something. You could be doing that. Or other people might say, okay, I have to really make this idea perfect. I don't believe in perfect, but perfect in their opinion, and then that's where they're going to put all their time into. So there's the coding all your time. There's the get the greatest idea pitch that you feel the most motivated by. But then if you do just coding or you do just the business side, or maybe you do a hybrid of some tech, some this, you miss exactly what that co-founder of EasyAssist mentioned, which is, what about going somewhere? But that's a whole day, if not 2 days. Sometimes with travel, are you willing to risk that time?
It's
right?
harder. That's why it doesn't occur to us. We want the path of least resistance, so we just want to send default emails on LinkedIn. Yeah, that makes sense. Another thing he said, he re-emphasized, we talked about this earlier, but I grasped it more and more as I was listening to him, is when it comes to this whole attempting to create a startup, which, by the way, I also wanted to talk about how the rates of failure are so high. And some days I feel like I've bought into a scam, not at Antler, but just this idea that I'm going to create a startup seems like such a ridiculous notion. But going back to this point, he said the process of creating a startup, or at least how his team successfully moved through Antler, was they had a hypothesis test approach. So literally, like you said, don't try to perfect an idea. Don't get married to a solution. Just form a hypothesis and test it and invalidate it, and then repeat that cycle literally as fast as you can. So his comment really cemented that to me again, that ideas are not important. And then the third takeaway for me was the biggest cause of cohort failure was not doing that iteration fast enough.
I think it's not just, you mentioned something about startups, but I actually don't think it's just startups. I think it's also in enterprise, at big companies, small, mid-size, and you're on a team. And if you don't vibe with your team, if you don't have that synergy, maybe you'll have a stable product that just has incremental releases, but you're not going to create the next big thing with your team or a really cool innovation. It really comes from that spark of synergy with a team or a person. So when we talk about YC, one of a graduate from YC posted on LinkedIn last week saying, what is the top reason that YC companies a year ago are not still existing? And the number one reason he listed,
guess?
Please.
Okay, well, I've seen it in the numerous charts.
So is it guessing though?
No, it is guessing, because I wonder if it's different.
Okay.
It's not solving a problem.
That was second, actually.
Right.
That was
what
second.
The first one?
The first one was Cofounding Team breaking up.
Okay.
So when you were talking about EasyAssist, you're right. The hypothesis thing, he mentioned it. That was a really important thing, how their process is. But I would also argue that the biggest reason he did this founder journey in the first place is he had someone, he mentioned this, he had someone he really, really wanted to co-found a company with.
Right.
Yeah, they were waiting for the right idea. I'm not saying that's not important. As you just mentioned, a big reason startups fail is that validation, that customer validation, that idea.
Also, I guess he did, this was the other, I guess it's more nuanced.
It's always nuanced, but please.
That you don't have an idea and you're just agnostic. He said he had an idea, which was essentially in the domain of knowledge management, but he was agnostic to its application and what industry. So I guess you do have to have a starting foot, but you need to be flexible enough in other things. But I guess you do need to have the seed of a conviction for something.
It's high risk. It's high risk. You said this is extremely high risk. It's not like it's a scam, but it's very minimal amount of startups get to the next stage or get to the next stage. This is I would say part of the reason we can move so quickly and innovate, and why all the greatest, a lot of great innovations came from startups. We're trying something new. We're taking that risk.
What would you do if you weren't doing it? What would you do if you were not creating a startup? Can you see yourself doing anything else?
Well, I've in my career, I've worked at big companies like AMD and Intel, both innovate as well internally.
Okay.
And could I work at a big company and innovate at a company? Sure.
Okay.
But if someone asked why a startup right now, my response to them is, with AI really taking off right now,
you see an
the
opportunity.
speed is extremely important. And a lot of people are feeling am I on this train? Am I going too slowly? Well, startups let you go really, really fast. Am I going to go off the track and fall off the bridge? Maybe, but at least I'm going really quickly.
Right. I'm going to mention TED talk I saw earlier this week that talked about why startups succeed.
Oh, yes. Positives. I love positives.
Can you guess the number one reason a startup succeeds?
I don't want to say luck, but I feel luck's a big one. Timing might also be a really big one. I don't know. I really believe in co-founding teams. I would say co-founding teams would be number one.
Okay. No, it's what you said right before that.
Timing?
It's timing. So going back to what you just said about AI, the timing and why you want to create it, that's like the recipes for a potential unicorn.
Well, there you go. I mean, I believe it, right? I also think luck is a big piece, but luck and timing, right?
But okay, here's my thing on luck. There's a podcast I listen to, I think it's How I Built This, where they always end the episode with how much did luck play a role in your success. But here's my thing about luck. Like, luck is just like part of reality that acknowledging it, I don't think it achieves any practical means. Like, luck is randomness, obviously, and we can't control randomness. So why even acknowledge it?
In week one, now we're going really first. So we've now recapping the entire Antler experience so far. In week one, Chris Crawford, so part of the Antler team, he mentioned about making your own luck and increasing the surface area of chances for luck to occur. Mm-hmm. I love that. I personally think I'm a very lucky person.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm increasing that surface area, right? Yeah. Trying to, at least, increase the surface area for luck to occur. Would you say the same thing?
Yeah, and I recall his example. He said that he needed to raise some money, so he decided he was going to go to this particular building.
Oh, disclaimer, don't do this. Okay, today, don't do this today.
You know what's funny? I think most people wouldn't do it. Even us, everyone in the room that heard it, like, you still need this other thing in you to actually go about doing that. I think Corey could do it.
Yes.
Corey's in a cohort. But he talked about, basically, he was determined to ride up and down an elevator and pitch his idea until he got funding, essentially, or got money for it. And then he happened to, on his, I don't know what trip, like 7th or something?
Yeah, it was something. He asked us to, like, how long do you think I rode that elevator?
Yeah.
Some of us said 2 days, some of us said a week. But yeah, it was like 7th or 8th trip up.
Yeah, and then he saw someone who had seen him somewhere else, and then essentially, like, if someone recounted that example, they would say, how lucky that you just happened to, like, see this guy who recognized you and then who could give you the check. But yeah, like you said, you create your own luck. If he never did that, he wouldn't have just randomly, like, got lucky like that, right?
Exactly. So it is, it's build your own luck, right?
Yes.
I think we're all doing that right now by going to Antler, right?
Yes, for sure. Another person I learned a lot from last week was Bernie Lee, the partner, as we mentioned. He did a casual Q&A, so I took some notes of my major learnings, and I just wanted to share it with you and get your perspective on it.
Sure.
So one of the things Bernie stressed was that all of the companies that they've worked with are founders, but not just in Antler. This is a characteristic in general of really good founders, is they have this habit of sharing progress with people.
Yeah, I love this.
And
I love this.
Like, if you want to go far, you have to have a habit of doing this. And in practical terms, this means you have a newsletter that has all your investors and stakeholders or anyone else who might be interested in what you're doing, and you share progress on a regular cadence. Like, what were the challenges you had, for instance, like last month, how you overcame them, and then clear asks. So he said, if you want to go far, you need to build the muscle of doing this.
It's actually, it's really interesting because this is going to be my 4th startup. Okay. And my first startup, I never did that.
Okay.
I never created updates. You meet with people still, right? And you then give them an update. But I never created, like, some sort of newsletter or some sort of update that I can provide them. Second one, same thing, didn't do it. And then my third one wasn't going great. And it was like being, like, beaten into me. Steven, you should probably do this. Like, there's that voice, right? Maybe, like, you should be doing this. So, with doing a newsletter or doing an update, in my third startup, it was all about, I didn't do it right away, but then I tried it, just trying it once.
Yeah.
It was great, even though I was so scared, like, I don't have much really to talk about, I have so many things still to do. But what was interesting is I had one small little update about a customer I only talked to like once or twice. And it actually led someone to say, oh, I know people at that company. Oh, I know her. Let's all jump on a call and talk to them. And ever since then, I was like, oh, wait, okay, I probably shouldn't be doing this. And now, like, it's second nature. I haven't started yet.
Okay.
But I'm always thinking about, okay, when am I starting this cadence again?
Right.
Was it ever great to hear Bernie say that?
That's another example of creating your own luck, right? How lucky that someone, recognized a point. And he also said it doesn't have to be complex or detailed or wordy at all. He literally said it could just be 5 bullet points.
Yeah.
But I think he's right that it separates the people who don't do it and the people that do it. Like, it actually creates quite the distinction between those types of founders.
It's the luck thing again, right?
Yes.
It's the luck thing. I'm sure there are people that can succeed without doing this. I mean, I tried twice, I didn't, but because I did it once, I got lucky.
Right.
Right? So I think Bernie's just talking to what Chris Crawford was saying.
Yeah.
Make more luck.
Yeah. And then Bernie again emphasized how the only thing that matters at the stage that we are in, or the vast majority of the cohort, is the speed of invalidating your ideas. The pre-seed stage.
Move quickly.
Yes, and don't get married to solutions. And then he said, build the muscle as a founder to not become attached to your vision. So again, speaking to invalidating fast. What do you think? You let out a sigh.
Because it's why did I sigh? Is because I literally changed my messaging from last week to this week just from one customer call. Now, I didn't change my entire idea because one customer said it's bad.
Yeah.
No, that's not what it is. It's I'm learning on the way. And I think that muscle, at least to me, is am I able to continue to mold my idea to what my customers, the majority of customers, are talking about? Because it is just a hypothesis at the beginning. I'm using that hypothesis to learn more.
Yeah.
And then I'm go quickly, and if the hypothesis is just completely wrong, create a new one as fast as possible. But at the same time, it's can I keep forming and adjusting my hypothesis to fit what the validation I'm getting from customers is. Not one, but as keep working it, keep workshopping it. So I sighed because I literally just adjusted. So, but
I thought you might disagree, but no. Everything they tell us so far has been gospel. From my experience.
Well, I think so. It's only week 4?
Yeah, that's true. We're just starting week 4. That's crazy. It's only been 21 days. Actually, that's a lot of days. Well, not counting weekends.
The messaging in week 1, now really still keep recapping every other week, was trust the process. They have done this before. They've done it with multiple cohorts. They've seen founders. They've invested in founders. It's their messaging, right? So.
So I've created a guide for myself.
Ooh.
Because we get a lot of these resources and speakers, and I create notes often, and I'm like, how do I remember those notes? Because my previous thought patterns and biases are more ingrained in me over time. So it's really easy to hear something new and be like, that makes sense, but then go back to the old way of thinking. So I basically created a to-do list essentially to review every day. So I wanted to share some of the stuff.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
And see what you think. So these are my guidelines for on a daily basis, things I want to remind myself. 1, validate your idea.
Oh, I haven't heard that one yet.
2, don't make assumptions.
Don't make assumptions. You were joking about how you have been waiting for me to tackle something. So why don't I tackle that one?
Okay.
I disagree.
I
like to make assumptions because it allows me to be really creative. I would actually say one of my biggest worries is as I gain more experience, I'll stop making these assumptions, and it would limit my creativity. It's okay to be wrong, I believe. It's okay to be wrong.
Good point.
So I make assumptions all the time, or I'm trying to make more assumptions.
Right.
Now, is it okay to build a company around an assumption and not validate it? Well, that's a different conversation. But I'm just saying I kind of like assumptions.
That's such an interesting point, like tethering creativity and execution, because if you just become a person who follows formulas, then you lose the creativity, which again means you don't create anything that valuable in the market.
I think there's fun to some creativity, right?
Yes.
Measuring on both, right?
Yes. Shrey said this quote, so I just wrote it down. Is there anyone losing sleep over this problem? To make sure you're solving, that saying now that's popular in VC circles, are you creating a vitamin or are you creating a vaccine?
No, I love that.
No painkiller. Was it a painkiller?
It was a painkiller.
Okay,
and
painkiller.
It's complete. It's very important. And for me at least, when I have a customer follow up with me versus the other way around, it's a pretty good indication that they're losing sleep over this, and they're like, "Hey."
That's amazing. That happens to you? Oh, hope to get there one day.
Once. Got lucky. I'm hoping to get lucky again, right?
No, that's really good. Another thing I think, I forgot who said it, but they said during the customer discovery call, when your customer starts like forming ideas and solutions to the thing you're talking about, when they're the ones being actively involved, that's also a really good sign.
No, for sure.
This one I mentioned before, but I noted down as my guide too. Choose paths that give you lots of feedback with the least amount of effort.
Yep, we talked about that.
Biggest cause of cohort failure, not moving fast enough at the iterative stage. Sham said this in week 1. She said work with problems that deeply resonate with you.
So I believe in that. I think it might be a little controversial, but I believe in that.
Yeah.
A lot of people that join this cohort, including myself, by the way, we're idea agnostic. We want to just chat with co-founders, find a good fit. Some people did come in with very strong convictions on ideas, but some didn't. But in my opinion, what is motivating me to wake up in the morning and work really, really hard and move at the speed a startup moves at?
Yeah.
I have to love the idea or the problem space, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah, there's sometimes, no one has a recipe for, even though we pretend, or maybe VCs or people who create a startups pretend there's a formula to it or they can write a book on it, but there really isn't. And there's so many contradictory things, like not being married to an idea, but having strong convictions in something.
Yeah.
So you have to, I guess, figure out some of the answers yourself. Another thing that Naaman said was, how can you hack the system to your advantage? So, do you remember that portion of the talk?
What's funny is that when I look at YC's application process, a big question they ask is how you hack the system, and that stumped me. Yeah. Maybe it's bad to say this, but it stumped me. I really try to think when I hacked the system last, and I can't come up with anything.
Oh, really?
It's really weird. And it seems like it's a requirement on the application to tell a story about how you hack the system. Maybe I just don't know of a time I hacked something, but it was my first time even hearing the term was just this year when I was reading the YC application before accepting Antler.
Yeah.
And then I heard it for the second time from Naaman, right?
Yes. Yeah, it is interesting.
Have you ever hacked the system?
I have, but I almost don't want to say it.
Oh, no, never mind. Clap. We cut that out, no question.
Which means that, I guess I have.
Oh, that's a good answer then, yes.
It's a really good answer when you can't even share it.
No, it's good. I like it.
And then two other reminders I wrote from Chris Carter. How can you be different? If everyone's going left, how do you go right at any moment?
That's a good one. I think he asked, what's interesting is after his presentation, Daphne the next day asked, on Monday, because he presented, I think, on Friday.
Yeah.
The next day that Daphne asked us that question, what was your takeaway from Chris Crawford's presentation? I literally said, stand out. Find a way to stand out.
Yes. And then the last point on here is if you don't tell people what you want, you won't get it. And this, an example of this he used was just sharing your journey and progress on social media, even if you find it a bit cringe. But if you literally don't tell people what you want, you won't get it.
I It's an interesting one. I don't think about that much, but I'm like all of us. Try really hard to be more social, post more, build that marketing muscle, if you will.
But even going back to your newsletter, right? Like those progress updates, like telling
it is
people
part of that.
exactly
No,
what you
it
want.
is part of that. Actually, I didn't even make that connection. You're right. It is a good connecting to not just posting about social media, but even updating.
Yeah.
So that's you're right.
So those are my guidelines. And then maybe the last topic we can discuss is
Pickleball?
Also a bit spicy.
Uh-oh, pickleball part 2?
Perhaps not. Okay, I won't try to make it that spicy, but I want to discuss Antler's evaluation criteria for which teams they fund.
Okay.
So they tell us like literally what they're looking for, right? But it's also so I basically took notes down based on everything that previous cohort members, companies, and then they themselves say directly. So on one hand, even discussing this could be a bit unsavory. Like you shouldn't be worried about what they're evaluating. Just worry about like creating the thing you want to create. But at the same time, I think it is curious. So I'm gonna state what I wrote down and then get your thoughts on how accurate you think it is.
I'm ready.
Okay, so it seems to me, based on the conversations I've had, that Antler cares most about tenacity, execution, and validating fast, showing progress and growth. They do not care about the underlying central idea you're passionate about. So that's one. They evaluate your performance based on the aforementioned things: progress, which constitutes obstacles, failure, bouncing back, and thinking in new ways. I think Sham said this directly. And then Shrey said Antler's investment decision really comes down to whether you're the most knowledgeable about the space you are building in. It's your responsibility to educate potential investors on your domain of expertise, that you have strong convictions, but you are also more than just words. So a bit contradictory even in that, but yeah, I think that's what I've come to understand how Antler evaluates. What do you think?
Well, so first of all, Antler is a pre-seed, if not pre-seed, right? This is finding a bunch of individual founders and then finding a bunch of potential other founders that could possibly be their co-founder. So when you say that the idea is not what they hold strongest to, likely because of the stage we're at, that they are looking if we can create a team and are worth investing in because they see us succeeding, right? No matter the idea. But what you also said, which is having that domain expertise, I actually don't think it's contradictory. I think it's more around an idea could be in the domain expertise, but that idea doesn't matter, but the domain matters. So you are the right person for this domain, no matter what idea in that domain you pick.
Or does conviction also mean how strongly you're committed to solving a problem, and then when they say don't be married to your idea is about the solution?
I think so. I think it's like, hey,
makes sense.
I just told you I changed my messaging just from last week. And my first week at the program, I had this idea and I asked the customer and they said, no, And honestly, there's a lot of like, it's like a roller coaster of emotion too, right?
I know.
The conviction to get through those humps or those low points, that's definitely what they're going to lack. This is not an easy journey. You're moving super fast.
It's an accelerator.
It's an accelerator. You're moving really quick, not just at Antler, but at a startup, you're moving really quick. So I think the conviction is a strong criteria. I agree with it. You know, I was hoping you were going to ask a really spicy question.
Okay, what is that?
Which is no, in your last things, I was getting ready for it. Was the question of, can I start a company as a single founder or as a duo founder, or should I be 3? Should I be 4? Should I be 20?
Let's
because
get to it.
The spicy part of this is that their recommendation or the stats they're showing us at Antler is more companies succeed and get funding from Antler if they're 2 or 3. I
don't even know if they've ever funded a single founder.
I don't know.
Company.
I don't know. You'll have to ask. I don't know. But why are they pushing 2 and 3? I think the spicy question is, can you do this by yourself? Do you need that second or third person?
Right.
So, what do you think?
I think that a lot of people in this area who write the checks, I don't think they come to independent thinking. They kind of see what everyone else is doing and just copy it. So Antler's decision to only really fund co-founding teams is the same as YC's.
You mean it's like stat-based?
They're just seeing what everyone else is doing and stats-based, and they're just doing that. I don't think anyone is like independently arriving at why a co-founding team is better than not. And there was a time where people created companies alone, right? And then something happened in the trajectory of tech, especially, where people started creating companies together.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. So that's one hypothesis I have, which is in the future, since we know the biggest cause of startup failure is co-founding teams.
Yeah.
I think in the future, as like the things required to get a business off the ground the activities become less like straining, like it's just easier. I think we're going to see less people create co-founding teams. I think solo founders is going to, I don't know, I think it could become like the new trend. And I think what's going to increase is like communities. Like there's going to be a bunch of people who have their own companies and they closely really support each other.
See, I would love that. See, that's one, I told you this is one of the things I love about Antler, right? Is that community of other founders. And from my first startup, that community of founders that I've met and keep relationships with to this day, right?
Yeah.
So I can't agree with you more that the network of co-founders or even that future you're talking about of having that nurturing environment of other founders.
Where you're getting like the same emotional support and like encouragement, but without the like issues that directly like,
Hopefully at different stages though. I don't want to be talking to a founder that's like, has like a series like E and $1 bajillion.
And they might give you good
they would probably, they might give me a lot of great advice. You're right.
And then another reason that I think it makes sense that it's better to work with someone than work alone, because if you work alone, you're you know who your biggest enemy is when you work alone? It's yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And your mind. Like, you'll overthink everything. So on a practical level, it makes sense that there is someone else there that's, like, moving you along. But I also, like I said, I also question again whether an equal co-founder of 50-50 equity split is the right trend going forward, because I can also see someone else who's a really early employee like serving that function of like keeping you honest and like, because it's so hard first of all for someone to have strong convictions about the world and like whatever they want to bring into fruition, whatever problem they want to solve, and then have someone else have the same thing and then have everything else work together. So I think the future is solo founders and some other mechanism that helps them achieve the same benefits that a co-founder gives right now without the pitfalls of the relationship.
It's an interesting one, and it talks to, honestly, that AI is doing so much to automate a lot of stuff.
Yes.
So is it even more plausible, the future you're talking about, because I don't have to do accounting because maybe there's an AI that's helping me do the accounting. I don't have to do all the coding because I have a co-pilot helping me code.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, I don't think, about a company run by one person, but founded. Makes
exactly.
sense.
Exactly. Even right now, without even AI being that advanced and overtaking engineering jobs, like one of the other things they like really hammer into us is not building prototypes. Like the coding is literally the last portion of it, which again, when we think of tech, like the classic co-founding teams were technical and business.
Yep.
And now, since like tech is so, I mean, it's still important. You have to build the infrastructure for a successful company. But again, that could kind of be a hire that gets paid really well.
Well, you can do a Figma prototype. You can hack something really quickly. Ask ChatGPT to code something. So it's not like zero coding or zero prototyping. But yeah, until a customer wants something, why build a finished product?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see the trends in startups and tech going forward and creating companies. Maybe we should end it there.
Yeah, no, this was fun. Thanks for having me, Samira, on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you for coming. You were a natural.
Thanks. I had fun. That's what's most important.
And our battery's almost drained.
Oh, no.
Perfect timing.
Ah!
All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.